The more joy you have in your life, the more connection, the more purpose, the healthier your cell will be, the younger your cell will be. If we keep our mitochondria healthy, that will help us with energy, with processing of nutrients, with our weight loss, with better aging. It can help to keep low our inflammation. And here's the big bonus, with our mental health. So how do we keep our mitochondria healthy?
Welcome to Body, Mind, and Spirit. I'm your host, Dr. Dieli Pichardo Johansson, retired board-certified hematologist-oncologist and twice cancer survivor.
Everybody's talking about the mitochondria. What is the mitochondria? You may remember your biology classes. They made you draw a cell, and you draw like an egg, cytoplasm nucleus, and some dots in between for different organelles. The mitochondria were supposed to be the lungs of the cell or the battery, because it would take glucose or fatty acids, do that boring long Krebs cycle reaction, and generate ATP, energy. But now we know the mitochondria is a lot more than that. Because the mitochondria senses availability of nutrients, the mitochondria is our antenna to stress. And now it's known that the mitochondria senses that stress and translates it into signals to the nucleus to turn on or off certain genes, epigenetics. A great amount of this knowledge about mitochondria comes from the lab of Dr. Martin Picard, and he has brought us two terms that are very important in understanding how mitochondria work: the concept of mitochondrial overload and the concept of mitochondrial health index. Let's start with the last one first. The simplest way to explain the mitochondrial health index is that there are certain enzymes they know are high when the mitochondria is working well, and some that are high when it's not working well. And putting together all those levels, it can tell you whether your mitochondria are functioning optimally or not. So we can study now things that are good or bad for your mitochondria. The other concept that came from this research is the concept of mitochondrial overload. And it means that when the mitochondria is dealing with too much, stops working functionally and shifts to an inflammatory pattern. All these oxidative enzymes inside it start leaking outside and causing trouble, creating more inflammation. The interesting thing is one of the greatest sources of mitochondrial overload is our diet. We were not designed to have the high sugar content in our diets that we have now. Remember that sugar was supposed to be a special treat in the summer when we had fruit available or when we found a honeycomb? The amount of sugar in our current diet is one of the most easily identifiable sources for mitochondrial overload. In theory, mitochondria work better with fatty acids. They particularly like medium chain triglycerides. But mitochondria can also become overloaded with toxins and, of course, with stress. Remember that all these markers of stress in our body are going to eventually come with inflammatory substances like cytokines. And the mitochondria seems to have antenna to detect all that. Something interesting too is that when the mitochondria is not working well, that leads to accelerated cellular aging. The telomeres, those caps at the end of chromosomes that prevent the chromosomes from unraveling and become shorter and shorter with every cell duplication, when we run out of them, that's how the cell ages and dies. There is strong data that supports that the mitochondria are closely linked to the gene of the telomerase, that enzyme that keeps our telomeres healthy. My hippie wonders if we have a built-in self-destructive device inside, that if everything is going well in our lives, we are perpetuating the cellular signals of health and longevity. If our lives are too stressful, our bodies are sensing there's no reason to stay around. But the most important thing that has come from this research is all the evidence to prove that the mitochondria respond to our emotions. Dr. Martin Picard's lab has trials that hopefully we'll cover in the future that talk about how positive emotions, especially connection and purpose, strongly connect to the health of your mitochondria. I'll add a link in the description and you'll have access to all these slides. In summary, the more stress you have in your life, the sicker you are, is only half of the equation. The more joy you have in your life, the more connection, the more purpose, the more positive emotions, the healthier your cell will be, the younger your cell will be. So, how do we keep our mitochondria healthy? Hey, real quick, I don't know what happened. At certain points during this recording, I developed a lisp and I refer to the mitochondria as mitochondria. Please disregard that. And now that I have your attention, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, share this video, and help me with this message. Thank you. If we keep our mitochondria healthy, think about it. That will help us with energy, with processing of nutrients. A healthier mitochondria means we are less likely to deposit excess and process nutrients into fat. So it can help us with our weight loss. It can help to keep low our inflammation. We already mentioned all the trouble that comes when inflammation is out of whack. It can help us with better aging. And here's the big bonus with our mental health. There's a new branch of psychiatry called Metabolic Psychiatry and is led by Dr. Chris Palmer. For many years, it has been observed that people with mental health issues have also a high incidence of chronic illnesses. It was assumed that, well, if you have mental health issues, severe depression, severe anxiety, schizophrenia, you potentially are not taking good care of yourself. You become more overweight, you not take medications, and you get sicker. But that is being challenged lately, and it's being proposed that there is a common thread that causes physical health issues, chronic issues, and also causes mental health issues. And that bridge is proposed to be the mitochondria. That when our mitochondria is unhealthy, it can lead both to physical illness and mental illness. And then it becomes a self perpetuating cycle because the more mental health issues you have, the less energy left and the less mental focus you have to devote to your health, the more health issues you have, the more miserable you feel. So, how do we keep our mitochondria healthy? Well, the first thing is less sugar. I'm sorry, I love sugar. I am actually addicted to sugar. I'm a recovering sugarholic. But less sugar, more fatty acids, especially more middle chain triglycerides, more exercise. And trust me, I fought it for years. I was a typical doctor couch potato for many years, and it took a cancer for me to become a gym rat. But yes, exercise optimizes your mitochondria. No wonder people say, I feel with more energy after I exercise. This besides many other cardiovascular benefits that it has and muscle mass benefits. Another way to optimize your mitochondria, autophagy. You may have heard about intermittent fasting and restricted time eating. When you are fasting for periods of time and your body goes into this emergency mode and starts recycling all components to use them. That's why people like it. You lose weight fast. It also takes your all mitochondria and destroys them, recycles them to use the components. Then, when you feed again, it starts making new mitochondria to replace the ones that it ate. And that ensures that at any certain time, most of your mitochondria are healthier and newer, and that you're getting rid of the older ones that were not working well. Again, I am not a fan of intermittent fasting, but I do a little bit of restricted time eating, which means after a very early dinner, I brush my teeth and don't snack until my next breakfast. But here is the kicker. Here is the free, readily available, non patent way that you can improve your mitochondria function that not enough people is talking about. If you have been following this talk, you probably predict what I'm going to say next. Positive emotions. Love, connection, purpose, all those positive emotions have the ability to improve our mitochondria health. So if you have been paying attention, focusing on this, your positive emotions, your love and connection, your purpose, your joy can improve every aspect of your health, from calming down your central nervous system, your cortisol, calming down inflammation in your body, boosting your immune system, and now we're saying improving your mitochondrial health. So I want to close this conversation by talking about a provocative theory. If stress dysregulates your body, raises your cortisol, causes inflammation, overloads your mitochondria, then anything that decreases stress should be good and should be a huge priority in my life, right? So, what if what releases stress for me is something labeled as not good for me? What if what brings me joy and releases stress is binge eating ice cream, drinking gallons of wine, shopping on Amazon until my credit cards explode, binging on TV, or doom scrolling? Exactly the same health measure that can be good for you can be bad for someone else and vice versa. From whether you should be a carnivore or a vegan or anything in between to how much exercise is the right amount for you.